With the Great Depression and World War II at hand, the United States were in a desperate place. Men were leaving for war while women and children stayed behind and picked up what labor they could. They needed cheap labor in order to maintain the railway and agricultural industries. In order to meet this need, the United States government signed a treaty with Mexico called the Mexican Farm Labor Program Agreement in 1942. This treaty established that migrant workers from Mexico would be allowed to work in the U.S. temporarily in order to fill the labor void resulting from the Second World War. Braceros was the name given to these men, which translates to the strong-armed ones, or those who work with their arms. Congress approved the Mexican Labor Agreement in 1943 under Public Law 45 and gave the responsibility of recruitment, transportation, feeding, and lodging of temporary workers to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Propaganda combining Uncle Sam and the Mexican señor had the charge, "Americanos todos, luchamos por la victoria," or "Americans all, let's fight for victory." Shortly after, the influx of Mexican laborers into the United States began. These braceros were most commonly rural peasants who were desperate for work and willing to do even the most scorned jobs. Although the program guaranteed the minimum wage of 30 cents per hour, many of the braceros were taken advantage of. The workers and their families were also ensured that they would receive proper housing, meals, and humane treatment. However, documented stories from the workers tell us about the injustices and disdain with which they were treated. We worked every day of the week, the 7 days of the week, and if we did not want to, we had to, because it was part of the contract. The bosses would tell us, "You came here to work, not to rest." Some days we worked 8 hours a day, but most of the time we worked 10 or 12. We didn't always go by hours. Sometimes we were paid by the weight, like when we picked cotton. When we worked by the hour, we were paid 50 cents an hour, and many times whatever the boss decided to pay us. They were ordered to form 2 lines. They were told to take off all their clothes and walk into a room and stand there. Soon, he heard a spraying sound. He found himself covered with a white powder substance. He was told the powder was to kill lice, yet no shower was provided afterward. The men were ordered to put their clothes back on. Braceros were also asked for proof that they were experienced agricultural workers by showing their calloused hands before being contracted. Urban dwellers were not allowed to participate. Men were often housed in crowded barn-like housing, and according to Leonard Nadel, a photographer hired by Fund for the Republic, such close living conditions make for high incidences of respiratory illness among the braceros. It is estimated that in the 22-year period before the program was ended, approximately 4.6 million contracts were signed, a number that deeply impacted American immigration and left a lasting legacy of rich Latino culture in the United States.